Thank you for inviting me to speak here, and thank you to Scott for that very interesting presentation. As already said, I work for Storyful, and for everyone here who doesn't know what Storyful is a news agency, and we gather news through social media. So a lot of eyewitness reporting, citizen journalism on social media, on breaking news events. We would be looking for that, sourcing that, seeking permission for it, and supplying it to news clients, many of them large international newsrooms. So I'm going to be speaking more about the practical side of basically sourcing your news through social media, and some of the considerations that we would be, that we would be giving to finding news online, and around copyright issues, and also sort of dealing with activists, citizen journalists, and how to approach them, and what considerations to give to the kind of content that they're supplying, questions to ask, and so on. So I will figure this out. Perfect. So basically, one of the main things that we'll be looking at is verification of content. So if you have a breaking news event and there's videos emerging, reports emerging, and so on. So really, as a sort of somebody as a news agency that provides other news agencies or news organizations with content, really sort of the key thing is accuracy, obviously, and basically being able to be very transparent about what we know about the content, what we know about videos or images that are emerging, the information that we have about where it originates from, what exactly it's showing, how sure we can be it's showing the incident that took place, and so on. So that we would be supplying that to news clients, and we can be fairly sure that this is not, or we can be as sure as possible that this is not, inaccurate information. So some of the things that we were looking at is: are we looking at a original piece of content, a video? Who has provided it? When was it captured? And where? And also, very importantly, why was it captured? So we'd be looking at maybe giving consideration to motivations. And I'm going to go through some of the things that we're looking at here. We've various processes that we go through in terms of verifying news, verifying pieces of content, eyewitness material, and so on. In terms of sourcing, we would always be looking to go back to the original source, figuring out who owns a piece of content, where are they, and how sure can we be that it really belongs to them. One of the ways that we might do that is, say, we have a video from maybe one example is last December, when there was a bombing at a stadium in Istanbul. There, as Scott already mentioned, the situation is quite difficult in Turkey with media freedom. So news organizations mightn't necessarily be the first ones or to provide a lot of information around what's happening. What we might see is that social media is being used by individuals who are there, who are witnessing something, and they might be posting about it, they might be posting images about it, or videos that they've captured saying, oh, we've just seen something, there's smoke rising from the stadium. And so when we find this, we'd be looking at this, and we'd be trying to gather different sources, seeing if what they're saying is consistent with each other, Also, what are the authorities putting out? Are they putting anything out? Are the news organizations in the location putting out information? What information is there available that is trustworthy? And then we'd really be looking at the sources. It's one of the situations, for example, in Turkey would be that a lot of sources might be putting out video or images and then pulling them down, because all of a sudden they've gone, oh my God, I've put my name to something, I've released something, am I going to get into trouble for this? So a lot of the time it's about really then trying to trace back to, can we find the original source? They might have pulled down the information. How much information can we find? Can we get in touch with them? Will they speak to us? Might they confirm? Might they send us the original files, letting us know, yes, this is ours? And then also, what are they saying in terms of, do they want to remain anonymous? How sure can we be from speaking to them that they really they are in the location where they say they are, that they've provided the images, or they've captured the images, and then gather as much information around them as we can, and then also be very respectful of what it is that their requirements are. So, for example, if they say, you may use my image, you may use my video, however, I do not want to be identified. So it's a balancing act. It's sort of about the anonymity side of things, where you basically want to protect the person who has captured content, but at the same time you also need to provide, you also need to basically cover the ground on being as certain as possible, or absolutely sure, that they actually own the material that they've put out. So that was one example, for example, with Turkey, where that's an issue that we encounter quite often. So then obviously we'd be looking at how verifying that the content that has been put out was actually captured on the date that they say it was put out. There's various tools to do that. Are there other images that are basically corroborating what we're seeing in a particular video on that particular date? Location, again, various tools to do that. What can we see in the image? Are there any landmarks? And so on. Are they consistent with, say, for example, Google Maps and so on, of that particular location? And as I said, when we're looking at some of the content that's being put out, in terms of what might the motivations or the agenda be of the individual or the group that put that particular content out. It doesn't, even just because an individual or a group might be putting out content and they have a particular agenda doesn't necessarily make it wrong, but it's very important to be transparent, or as transparent as we can be, about what we know about maybe a group that's putting out particular material, and where they're coming from, what might their reasons be. So yeah, as I said, accuracy is extremely important. Online, on social media, there's so much information that's being shared that could be that's fake or that's wrong, and really it's about sort of being able to not get caught out. So looking at when we're gathering news through social media, it's about how really verification processes are incredibly important to just try and make sure that the information that you're gathering or that you're getting is accurate, because you're not there, you're not at the scene, you can't see what's happening, you can't speak to the person who maybe captured a particular video, you're not seeing them in front of you filming it. So what other information is there to gather around the content that you're finding, and particularly when it comes to large breaking news events, identities that are being revealed, or that are basically being sort of not revealed but thrown around on social media. Is there anything in terms of perhaps attackers or somebody who might be involved in a particular news event. A lot of those kind of things could and are often wrong, and it's about really being very careful around that. If there's no large, if there's basically no either reputable organisation or authorities that are really, putting out this information, then you'd be extremely careful about using any of that, especially in relation to identities. So sometimes when you're dealing with breaking news situations, which could be often quite, awful or traumatizing, especially for the people who might be there, who might be eyewitnesses, and maybe capturing images or video. When you're approaching them, you have to be really very careful and mindful of what it is that they are just experiencing or what they might have just gone through. And so social media makes it quite easy to be quite impersonal because you're not there, you're not looking at them, you're not dealing with them face to face. And therefore, but as journalists using social media to source information, you have to be very mindful of the situation that individuals might be in. Are they in a dangerous situation? If they are, don't keep the conversation. If you're making contact with them, don't keep it public. Try and take it off platform, try and speak to them, through some other means, maybe on the phone or in a private conversation online. And also, basically make sure they are okay, make sure they're safe. Maybe make sure you're not encouraging them to put themselves into dangerous situations where you might be saying, oh, can you go out and take this picture for us? It's like you wouldn't do that because basically you don't want to put anyone in a situation where they might feel pressurized or might feel, encouraged in any way to, put themselves in danger or in harm's way. Also, one of the things that we always do is that we would be obviously seeking permission for content, seeking permission for images, seeking permission for videos and so on, for other news organizations, or for us basically to use that content and then to disseminate it or distribute it to news clients. So we always have to be very clear about usage rights. So if we're approaching someone and we might be asking, is this your content? Yes, it's your content. May we use it, or may our news clients use it? There's terms and conditions, and they have to be very clear about what it is that they're agreeing to. And if English isn't their first language, that means also being able to approach them in their own language, or a language that they speak very well, to understand exactly what it is that they're agreeing to, who they're dealing with, and what might happen with their particular content, with their videos, with their images, and so on. So that's basically a bit of a background around what we do at Storyful, and some of the things that we keep in mind or that we consider when we're approaching eyewitnesses, when we're approaching citizen journalists, in terms of using their particular material that they've published, broadcasted in some way online. And okay.